Hello, Sean Burton here, your marketing and scaling expert. And today we're going to be talking about why it's so important to be managing systems instead of people. This is really fundamental when it comes to a feminine approach to business. And I see it so commonly be an issue for practice owners that they are really struggling to manage their team because it feels really personal. It feels like they are constantly nagging and having a go at their team because they're not meeting their expectations, they're not following through on tasks, they're not doing things in the way that they want them to be done, and not only is it frustrating, but it's really demoralizing for their team. If this feels like where you find yourself right now, know that you are not alone. Anytime I record a video here, it's because it's a really common challenge. So let's talk more about why this happens. What I see people doing is that they have expectations that the people who work for them, and this is true of admin and clinicians, have the same expectations as them, they will follow the same processes as them, they will do things in the same way as them, they have the initiative to fill gaps that they have left for the person in a process or system in exactly the way that they would fill them. And when that doesn't happen, they get frustrated with the person who has not fulfilled on their expectations. But here's the thing. If you are not clearly outlining the expectations and the exact way you want something done and the exact process you want it done with and the exact standard to which you want it done with in your documentation and your systems and processes, it's really, really unfair to expect a team member to know. They're not mind readers. They're just trying to fill the gaps. And if you leave too many gaps and you leave too many things open to interpretation, they're going to do them in the way that they think they should be done and not necessarily the way that you think they should be done, because they're not mind readers. When that happens, you start managing people. You start talking about how you don't understand why they didn't know to do it that way, and you don't understand why they can't use their initiative, and you don't understand why their standards aren't the same as yours, and you don't understand why they think that's okay. You're managing people, and it's really uncomfortable. It feels really in the masculine energy of being authoritarian and dictatorial, and not really very nice. And so what happens is that many women don't do it. They just silently boil inside, frustrated about what is going on and how no one's meeting their expectations and things aren't being done the way they want them to be done. And they take things back to themselves, or they don't delegate them in the first place because it goes wrong once, and they just sink under the weight of everything in their practice. Instead, what I want you to focus on doing is managing people's adherence to systems. What do I mean by that? Let's say that you have documented in finite detail the system around how you want the phone to be answered, from the words you want them to say, the actions you want them to take at the end, the documentation that needs to be filled in, the way you want the intake information put into the system. Every single piece of that process has been documented. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of work. I know that. But if you have documented every single piece, the standards are clear, the expectations are clear, the system is clear, it details every step and covers every different way that it might pan out differently from the norm, and it's all covered there, then when someone doesn't adhere to the system and they deviate from it, or they don't do something to the same standard, or they don't follow the process, now you are saying to that person, here is a documented system and process about how we expect the phone to be answered here. It doesn't look like you're following that system and process because I can see there's gaps and these things aren't being done. Can you explain to me where the problem is as you see it? Is there something wrong in the system that it doesn't make sense? Is there something in the system that doesn't work properly? Is it too cumbersome for some reason? What is the reason that you're finding it difficult to follow this system? Let's get that fixed so that we can ensure that you are following the system and process and things are being done in the way that they need to be done in this practice. That's not personal. That's tell me where this isn't working for you and let's fix it. It's not why aren't you smart enough? Why can't you figure this out? Why have you made this mistake? Why are you not doing things to the right? standard, right? Which is all quite personal. Asking someone why they're struggling to follow a system and how can we help that system be more easy to follow for you is a much less personal way of resolving the problem. Now, what you'll often find is someone will say, oh, I'm really sorry, I didn't realise it needed to be done exactly like that. I'll try and do it like that from now. Or I'm really finding this bit challenging because it gets really muddled and I forget that step when I go off and do this. Okay, let's find a way to change the system to remind you to go back to that step. Let's change the order if it doesn't work for you. It becomes much more collaborative, which is a much more feminine value, but it becomes less personal. And you will find that it resolves so many more issues because the expectations are clear and the standards are clear, and now you're just managing their adherence to those systems and processes. And if that person still continues to not follow systems and processes, they're not the right fit. And you know that now because you have a very specific way of doing things. You've set the expectations, you're holding them accountable to that. And if they consistently aren't accountable to following your system and process, then they're not a good fit for your practice, and you need to find someone who is going to be accountable to following your systems and processes. But that's much clearer than I feel like this person should be really good, but they're not performing. I don't understand why they're not doing the things I want them to be doing in the way that I want them to be doing them. I'm just going to do it myself. If that sentence goes through your head, this is the resolution to it. Go back to your documentation and ask yourself if something isn't being done the way you want it to be done. First, has it been documented? Because if it hasn't been documented, then it is completely open to interpretation as to how they do it, and you have no right to expect them to do it in any particular way that you want it done because it's not documented. Even if you told them at the beginning that's how you wanted it done, it's not documented. They have nothing to refer back to. Over 6 months, what you told them on their first day is long gone. Now they're just doing it how they think is the best way to do it. So if it's not documented, they're allowed to do it however they want because you have not set any expectations around how it should be done. If you do have a process, ask yourself, are my expectations completely clear about the standard I want this done to? Have I made it explicit, the exact steps of the process that need to be completed, and in what order, and to what standard? Have I left anything open to interpretation or left anything unclear? If any of the answers to those are yes, go back and improve the documentation around that system and process until the answer is no. Everything is completely clear. And then introduce it to your team and have your team incorporate it, and then figure out anywhere that it might not work. When you've done that, if you have a new team member come on, firstly, they'll be able to pick up that process and do it without anybody needing to train them on it, because it's so specific and so clear. They won't need training, they just follow the process. And if they don't follow the process, now you're having a conversation about why they are not adhering to the systems and processes in your business, instead of why are you not performing as I think you should. It's so much less personal. It's so much easier to have as a conversation. It removes all this like, oh, this is really annoying, they're not meeting my expectations, but I don't want to say anything because I feel bad, this is really awkward. It removes all of that. It's just, hey name, I just wanted to check in with you on this process because it doesn't look like you've been following it as is laid out. Is there a problem here? How can I support you? Where did you get stuck? That's a much easier conversation to have. And in having systems and processes documented in this way and having the conversations when people are not adhering to them, your team will be way more effective and productive than they currently are. They will make less mistakes, you will have less frustration, things will be done to a higher standard, and you will be able to confidently delegate more and work less. And ultimately, that's our goal. We want to see you making twice as much money, working half as much in your practice, and this is a fundamental piece of you being able to remove yourself from the business and the business to do better without you there than it would almost with you there right now, okay? We're going to get to a place where it does better with you not there in the future than it's doing right now with you there. That's where we want to get to. I hope that was helpful for you today. I would love to hear your comments on this below. Let me know your thoughts on this piece around managing systems instead of people, and managing their adherence to them and setting the expectations really clearly. It's a really powerful concept, and I would love to hear your thoughts on whether it feels more feminine to you and feels like something that would be easier to implement. So I will catch up with you later.